Contents are being generated with the help of AI. User discretion is solicited.
Hello everyone and welcome to this in-depth breakdown. Rent versus buy in the USA, the real numbers for 2026. If you're watching this in early 2026, you're probably asking yourself one of the biggest financial questions of adult life. Should I keep renting, or is it finally time to buy a house? This decision affects millions of Americans every year. It's not just about having a place to live, it's about building wealth, financial freedom, and stability. But in today's market, with mortgage rates hovering around 6%, home prices still elevated from the pandemic boom, and rents continuing to rise in many areas, the math is more complicated than ever. Today, we're diving deep into the real numbers. No hype, no real estate agent spin, no landlord bias. We'll use the latest data from January 2026, sources like the National Association of Realtors, NAR, Freddie Mac, Zillow, Redfin, and economic forecasts. We'll compare monthly costs, long-term wealth building, hidden expenses, regional differences, and run actual calculations for typical scenarios. By the end, you'll have a clear framework to decide what's best for you. Spoiler, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. In many cases right now, renting is cheaper short-term, but buying can win big over 7+ years. Let's start with the current market snapshot. First, the big picture numbers as of January 2026. Median home price in the United States, approximately $412,000. That's based on recent NAR data showing $409,500 in December 2025, with slight upward ticks into early 2026. Zillow's average home value is a bit lower at around $357,000. But for existing single-family homes, the typical starter or median purchase, we're looking at $410,000 to $420,000 nationally. Average monthly rent, around $1,995 nationally per Zillow's rental index. For a typical 3-bedroom home or comparable apartment, rents often fall in the $1,800 to $2,200 range, depending on the metro. 1-bedrooms average closer to $1,500 to $1,600. 30-year fixed mortgage rate, 6.06% as of mid-January 2026, according to Freddie Mac's latest weekly survey. That's down slightly from peaks in 2025, but still elevated compared to the sub-3% rates of 2021. Home price appreciation forecast for 2026, low single digits. Redfin predicts plus 1%, Zillow plus 1.2%, ResiClub average forecast plus 1.43%, CNBC around plus 2.2%. Overall consensus, 1 to 3% growth, much slower than the double-digit jumps we saw earlier in the decade. Rent growth, expected around 2% for 2026 per RealPage and Apartment List economists. Rents cooled in 2025 due to new supply, but demand is picking up again. Property taxes. National effective rate averages about 1.1%. That means on a $412,000 home, expect $4,500 to $5,000 per year in taxes, or $375 to $420 monthly. Homeowners insurance, averaging $1,800 to $2,200 annually nationally, a $150 to $180 per month, higher in coastal or disaster-prone areas. Maintenance, rule of thumb 1 to 2% of home value per year, so $4,000 to $8,000 annually for our median home. Why does this matter? Because in 2026, multiple analyses from RealPage, John Burns Research, and even The Economist conclude that renting remains cheaper than owning on a monthly basis in most major metros. The gap has narrowed from 2023-2024 peaks, but owning a starter home still costs $800 to $1,500 more per month than renting comparable space in many places. But monthly cost isn't everything. Buying builds equity. Let's run the numbers. Let's make this concrete. We'll use a realistic national average scenario, then adjust for regions later. Scenario assumptions, 2026 numbers. Home price, $412,000. Down payment, 20%, $82,400 to avoid PMI, common for better rates. Loan amount, $329,600. Mortgage rate, 6.06% fixed 30-year. Property taxes, 1.1%, $4,532 per year. Homeowners insurance, $2,000 per year. HOA fees, if applicable, $0 for this single-family example. Maintenance, 1%, $4,120 per year. Comparable rent, $2,000 per month for a similar 3-bedroom house, apartment. First, calculate the mortgage payment. Using the standard formula, monthly payment equals P times R, 1 plus R to N, divided 1 plus R to N minus 1. Where P equals loan amount, R equals monthly rate, N equals months. R equals 6.06% divided 12 equals 0.00505. N equals 360 principal plus interest, approximately $1,990 per month. Now add the rest. Taxes, $4,532 divided 12 equals $378. Insurance, $2,000 divided 12 equals $167. Maintenance reserve, $4,120 divided 12 equals $343, 1% rule. Total monthly owning cost, $1,990 P&I plus $378 plus $167 plus $343 equals $2,878. Rent for comparable, $2,000 difference. Owning costs $878 more per month, about 44% higher.
This matches 2026 reports. NAR and Redfin data show owning costs 1,000 and plus more monthly than renting in 45 plus of 50 major metros. But wait, tax benefits. Mortgage interest deduction, if you itemize, and property tax deduction can save $3,000, $5,000 a year in taxes for higher earners. For average households, it's less impactful post-2017 tax changes. Net after-tax owning cost, maybe $2,600, $2,700 for some, still higher than rent. Opportunity cost, that $80 to $400 down payment could be invested. At 7 to 8% stock market average return, that's $5,700 to $6,600 year opportunity. Renting wins short-term cash flow hands down. Monthly cost tells half the story. Over time, buying shines through equity and forced savings. In our scenario, year 1, you pay $24,000 toward principal/interest, but only $8,000 goes to principal. Early mortgage heavy on interest. Plus appreciation, at 2% average forecast, home value rises to $420,240. Equity gain, $8,140 plus $8,000. Principal $16,240 wealth build, minus costs above rent. You spend $878, $12,000, £10,536 extra. Net wealth gain, year 1, $5,700 by year 5, principal paid $45,000, appreciation 2% year compounded, home worth $454,000, total equity $170,000, assuming started with $82,400, wealth built $87,600 beyond down payment, extra spent versus rent, assuming rent rises 2% year to then £2,208 by year 5. $50,000 cumulative extra, but now you have $170K asset versus renters $1 home equity. Break-even point, typically 5 to 8 years in 2026 market per most calculators. Historical data, since 1970s, home prices appreciated by 4% annually long-term, above inflation. Even at conservative 2-3%, buying wins after 7 to 10 years. Renters invest the difference. If you invest that $878 a month extra at 8% return, after 10 years, $130,000 portfolio. Buyer, $300,000 plus equity. Buying still ahead, especially with leverage. Tax-free gains. Sell primary residence, exclude up to $250K to $500K capital gains. Renting, no asset, but flexibility and no maintenance headaches. Buying isn't free money. Closing costs 2 to 5% of price, $8,000, $20,000 upfront. Selling costs 6 to 8% commissions plus repairs, $25,000, $33,000 on 412k home. If you move in 5 years, you lose. Maintenance surprises. Roof 15k, HVAC 5k 10k, interest paid over 30 years, $386,000 interest on our loan, total paid $715k for 329k borrowed. Risks: rates rise, locked in good, prices fall, unlikely short term but possible. Job loss, renting hidden costs, annual rent increases average 3 to 5% historically, no control, eviction risk, no customization. National averages hide huge differences. High cost coasts, San Francisco median home 1.3 M, rent $3,500. Owning monthly $8,000 to plus. Rent often wins unless long stay. New York, similar. Buying rarely pencils short term. Midwest, South, Indianapolis median home $290k, rent $1,500. Mortgage, $1,400 P&I plus extras equals like $200 total. Closer, buying better, faster. Texas, no state income tax. Austin, $450k home, rent $2,200, buying competitive. Florida, high insurance, 4k plus year, taxes, owning pricier. Top buying markets, 2026. Midwest cities like Buffalo, Cleveland, Detroit, low prices, decent appreciation. Worst, California, NY, Boston, high price to rent ratios. 20x means buy expensive. Price to rent ratio rule. Under 15 equals buy favorable, over 20 equals rent favorable. Math aside, ask yourself, how long will you stay? 5 years, rent, 7 plus, buy. Job stability, family plans, down payment ready, emergency fund, risk tolerance, leverage scary, lifestyle. Love fixing things or hate it? In 2026, renting gives better cash flow and flexibility. Buying builds wealth long term if you stay put. Run your own numbers. Consult professionals. Like and subscribe if you found this video interesting.